This is the Water Quality Association podcast, promoting the betterment of water quality around the world. And hello, I'm your host, Wes Bleed.
It is the teams you build and the people you work with and how you truly treat them and care about them. Because let me tell you, we spend more time with our work families than we do with our home families. And I think if you get that right, you're going to be successful.
That's DJ Shannahan, along with his father, Duke Shannahan, talking about long-term success within the water treatment industry. And welcome to the weekly podcast from the Water Quality Association, the leading voice of the residential, commercial, and industrial water treatment community. Find us at WQA.org. If you're a first-time listener or viewer, we're glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us. If you've been with us before, welcome back. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a show. That's the magic of podcasting. And be sure to share the podcast with someone you know. We also feature our podcasts on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/@WaterQualityAssociation videos to both see and hear our guests. In this episode, we focus on the significance of history within the water treatment industry as we celebrate WQA's 50-year anniversary. We talk about the Shannahan family legacy, multi-generational, how they evolved the company, what's been the secret sauce to their success, and where they see the industry headed next. Now, on to my conversation with Duke and DJ Shannahan on the Water Quality Association podcast. And in this podcast, we're talking about the importance of tradition, legacy, and how we build our businesses in the water treatment industry. We're joined by two great members of the Water Quality Association, Duke and DJ Shannahan. They have been in the industry for some time now. We're going to find out more about that, and we're going to find out what has really kind of energized them in their business and how they feel about the value of WQA and the industry in general, and what's ahead in their minds for the industry. So, gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having us, Wes.
Appreciate it. Hey, Duke, let's start with you. You purchased your company, Sharp Water Culligan, which is in the Mid-Atlantic area, and you purchased that, I believe, back about 1990. And your family history, however, goes back even further than that in the industry. Can you tell us more about how things got started for you?
It goes back to when I was in college, University of Maryland, College Park. I graduated with a BS degree in what they call education for industry. And of course, I was looking forward at the time to rebuilding my father's business. He had started a business called the Sam Shannahan Well Company because he came from a business called the Shannahan Artesian Well Company, which was at the time the third largest water well drilling company in the world. And so, but he and his brother did not get along well together. And when my grandfather died, my father and his brother just separated and started that. So my desire when I was in college was to create his business, the Sam Shannahan Well Company, to become $1 million business, which was a lot of money in those days. Today, it's not that much. All that having been said, that was what started me with my interest in the water business. But when I worked with my dad for about a year, I realized we just couldn't make it together. And of course, the good news is that taught me a lot about what I needed to do in order to work with my son, DJ, if I wanted to build the business. So after much ado, I was able to buy a company called Tolan Water Service here in Salisbury, Maryland. But the only way I could buy it, since it was a corporation, was to form another corporation, which I did. I formed the Sam Shannahan Well Company Incorporated, and we bought Tolan Water Service, and so then we operated as a wholly owned subsidiary of Tolan Water Service. And we did that for many years. And of course, I hired DJ to come along and he helped me make it grow. So, but I would have to share that what made it work for me, and the sad part was the fellow I bought it from, Mr. Tolan, apparently had intended to take it back at some point in time because of the way the contract was written. But because he didn't think I could get enough money to pay him off totally. And I just would like to share that's important because of family and how important family is. My wife's mother was a very intelligent woman and had saved a great deal of money. And even though I was not able to get enough money from the banks to buy Tolan out, my mother-in-law loaned us $143,000 in order to pay him off. And I'll never forget when I took it to the bank said, no, we can't do that because your mother-in-law obviously will want paperwork to confirm what she loaned you. And I said, no, you do not understand. It is you that do not trust me. My mother-in-law trusts me totally. The $143,000 was a gift to me. Anyway, I've always been proud of that. I don't know whether I'm going too far.
So Wes, let me add a little bit of background there too. You know, Dad talked about his grandfather and my grandfather, his father, Sam Shannahan, but the Shannahan Well Drilling Company was formed in 1883 in St. Michael's, Maryland, and still exists today. So, in addition to being in the well drilling business, they actually sold barrels of water. Some of the wells produce such pure water that people would come from miles around to buy barrels of water. I'm not talking about 5-gallon jugs. I'm talking about 55-gallon barrels of water because some of their wells produce that level of water quality. So water quality, if you think about it in that light, has been important to our family for almost 150 years.
Exactly.
So when did the company evolve into more of a traditional water treatment business?
Well, when we bought Tolan Water Service, and because Tolan Water Service at the time had what we call exchange tanks, we also had something called metered water, and there was something that was different in the industry. But we also had water conditioners. At the time, we represented hay, and of course, I had gone to a special meeting with Echo Water in Minnesota, and I was very impressed with that, and I gave up hay and became an Echo Water dealer. Since then, of course, DJ has had a wonderful relationship with Culligan, and when he was in control of the business, he had switched to Culligan, and that has been a wonderful, wonderful asset. But I would just tell you that one thing I was so proud of, after we did buy the business, it was doing about $500,000 a year, but we got it up to $1.5 million a year before I sold it to Chesapeake Utilities because they wanted to get in the water business. But they had a different philosophy and attitude, in my opinion. And so they really didn't belong in the water business because it requires so much of your doing for other people and not being stuck on how important you are. Anyway, they were a wonderful company to us, and they did wonderful things, and they trained my son wonderfully in management. So I just can't say enough good things about Chesapeake Utilities. They've been great, and I have their stock. I'm proud of it. Sorry.
But yeah, so 1990 was when Dad bought Tolan Water Service, brought me on, and then we sort of evolved the company from just doing portable exchange tanks and some resin deliveries, bulk resin deliveries, which, as Dad said, was called metered water service. We also began to understand the value of selling equipment and renting equipment, not just portable exchange tanks. So that's kind of when we really took off, and Dad owned the company from 1990 till 1998.
Right. Yeah, I would share with you one of the things I never forget. We used to do the exchange tank business, which is what started both Culligan and Echo Water way back when. But the bottom line is, I'll never forget, I sent out a letter out to all of our customers, and I said, we can work out a special deal where you could rent a water conditioner, and then you will someday own it. So it was a good thing. So it's a great automatic water softener, and I gave them all the stuff about how great our water softener was. Anyway, I had a guy call me up, and he said, well, now I ask you, what could be more automatic than I never have to touch it. I never put salt in it. I never have to worry about servicing it. I never have to worry about anything. You take care of it all. What's more automatic than that? So the exchange tank business has stayed in business with us.
And you've had customers that have lasted for decades. Is that not correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, lots of customers that have lasted for decades.
And I credit that really to that special service. You think about the PE service, and there are very few places other than maybe some in California that have discharge restrictions that even offer portable exchange tanks now. We realize that there's so many of our elderly customers specifically that count all that service, and because they can't lift a bag of salt, or they don't understand how an automatic water conditioner might work. So that PE service, in some cases, they like talking to the driver once a month when he comes out to swap the tanks out. So really, those customers have stayed, even going back to 1968 when the company originally started, and they're still here today.
So over the decades, the industry has evolved, and now here we are in the 2020s of all times, and things are, from a technology standpoint, have continued to improve. What have you seen as the biggest shifts in the industry or changes over time, DJ?
I would have to say that our shift away from being the softener industry and really more into the drinking water industry was the most critical thing for us. We've made a living out of taking out iron and taking out hardness and taking out other minerals that customers might not want in their water that are mostly aesthetic, and in some cases are secondary drinking water contaminants on the EPA's chart. But it's really the primary drinking water contaminants and the removal thereof that are driving a lot of what we do now, and the consumer's desire to have the best possible water they can put in their body. So that understanding of the difference between working water and what water softeners do, which kind of built this industry into these primary drinking water contaminants like nitrates and VOCs and lead and things like that. And now, of course, PFAS that are being regulated, that are driving consumers concerned, and they don't want to put any pollutants or contaminants in their body. So I think that's really the change that we've seen just over the last decade or so.
And how has WQA played into that? I would imagine that the services, the resources, the expertise, the training has all been part of that. I don't want to lead you too much along that line, but just how did you guys get started with WQA, and what was the main focus when you did get started?
Dad, you want to start with that one, and then I'll add some color?
Yeah, I think I can. As a matter of fact, so when I first bought the business, I knew a fair amount, of course, about well drilling and pumps and all those things, but I didn't know much about water conditioning. So I saw the thing about water quality, and I called and asked if I could become a member, and they said, "We'd love to have you as a member." I was very proud of the fact that as soon as I became a member, I started learning whatever I could from you all, and I started reading water quality and a lot of other magazines and things. And I wanted to get all the certifications that I could, and I did. I have all the certifications that water quality offers except commercial.
Yeah.
And my son has that. So we're covered, and I just can't say enough good things about how great water quality has been to me and how I look forward to all of those special annual meetings. And I went to some other meetings too, both with Echo Water and with water quality. At the time, Echo Water was a big supporter of Water Quality Association, and I love being part of both.
Yeah,
Duke, didn't you? I was going to ask, didn't you keep your certifications current for many years?
Well, I did keep them current for many years, even though I wasn't still active in the business. Yeah. But I think I've let them go now, right?
Just this year.
Yeah, just this year.
Wow, that's great.
WQA called to verify that he's going to let him lapse. So, but I'll also add, Wes, as Dad said before, he bought the business in 1990 from a man whose intention was to take the business back over. And within 6 months of owning the business and still not really understanding a lot about water quality improvement, all of the former ownership was gone, and the two managers that Dad kept on were both gone. So here we were out in the cold, 6 months in, with a major investment on my father's part, and really not the knowledge and understanding of how to run this business and how to really take care of customers' needs. And that, to me, is where WQA came in. I mean,
exactly right.
We went, as Dad said, we took every course we could take. We got every certification we could take. We learned about all of the intricacies of how the equipment worked and how the chemistries worked. And that allowed us to be able to really keep from going bankrupt and letting the guy take the company back over. So I've always credited WQA for that. Dad has always credited WQA for that. And that's one reason why we're still as active as we are. And we have been members since 1990.
Right.
Exactly.
And it was great to work with DJ just a few years ago as WQA president. So your service was greatly appreciated there.
Thanks,
so what about the future as you look at Sharpwater Culligan and you see where you've been over the last 30 years, where you've come from? What's the future hold, and how is that being shaped by what you've just told us, but also your values as a company?
Well, the future of this company is going to largely depend on his daughter, who I'm so proud of as my granddaughter. And so I really think DJ can answer that question better for you than I can, because he's done so much better with it than I did. But I mean, together we made a wonderful company, I believe. So I'll leave it up to DJ.
I agree. So I think, one of the things that Dad instilled in me is the people aspect of the business. So it really understanding the inner working relationships that we have with those we work with and how important it is to build a team. And so I've been fortunate enough to have learned from people like my dad and from people at WQA. And I've been able to pass that on to my daughter, who just this year became president of the company. I think that there's a lot of value in this industry for having younger minds involved and having more women involved. And I'm proud to say that in my time on the nominating committee of WQA, we were able to get many more women involved in this industry. All the board of directors, even our past president, is the second female president of the association. And I think that we really needed to put action to the words. We've all said the words for a decade or more that we need more women involved. Well, you know what? Isn't it great that that's a fact, that we have more women involved now and that they earn these positions? Paul Leondesser, as our executive director of WQA, is an outstanding leader and one of the best that I've worked with. My daughter here is phenomenal. My CFO is a woman leader. General manager of the two stores in Pennsylvania and New Jersey is a female. The people that report to me, 3 of the 4, are women leaders and really the future of where we're going. And I love the way that they think about things differently the way that I do. They don't accept the status quo. They're looking for better ways to do things, and they think about the interpersonal relationships and how that's going to impact the business. I can do all the technical in the world, and I can tell you how to solve PFAS problems, and I can design commercial industrial systems and all the stuff I love to do. But that relationship building that started with Dad and how he trained me is really where I see our company going, and my daughter's the perfect one to lead that.
I fully agree. And I just wanted to share, maybe you can go a couple of steps further, but I just want you to know that we kind of built this thing on a couple of principles, and I have put that together in what I call a words of wisdom. And basically what it says is that you need to do all you have promised to do, and you should not encroach on other people or their property. That's one. And the other is, you can get anything in this world you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want first. And we built our company on that. And I give a lot of credit to DJ because we recognized there were 4 things. I'm hoping you'll explain that, the 4 people, because we had 4 of the most wonderful people, but we covered the 4 critical areas. If you'll talk about that, I appreciate it.
And that gets back to the relationship strategies, Wes. And so there's lots of different versions of how these work, but the particular one that we went through used birds as the 4 different type of styles. And of course, one was the eagle, That would be me. I always fancy myself as a leader. One's the peacock. That's my dad. Can't talk without his hands because he's a salesman. One is the owl, the analytical thinker, and always takes time to make decisions. That was our controller at the time. And then one's the dove, the caring, loving person, and that was Mom Barge, who ran our office. So that was a training we did very early on. And at the time, I didn't realize how important that was going to be to us. But let me tell you, it is the teams you build and the people you work with and how you truly treat them and care about them. Because let me tell you, we spend more time with our work families than we do with our home families. And I think if you get that right, you're going to be successful. And I'll give you one thing too that my friend Greg Reinecke told me. He said, you got to stop trying to hire guys that know how to do this business. You hire attitude and you train technical. And when we changed that to become our philosophy 3 years ago, and we built a playbook to teach us how to train people better, it allowed us to do everything from changing our vision, mission, and values in the company to hiring the right kind of people, to getting our voice of the customer scores up, to making sure customer service took priority, because you can screw up jobs over and over again, and if they like you, they're going to have you back. Or you could send the most technical person out there that's a genius, but customers don't like him and they don't want him back in the home. And I think that's a really important lesson for our new members to think about as they're building their companies. Treat people right. And as Dad said, one of his mantras, which I've used many, many times in decision-making process, is you can always get what you want if you help enough other people get what they want first. If you put yourself first in line, you're going to end up being last. Put them first in line, help them meet their needs, and you will eventually get what you want.
Very well said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just amazing how those analogies of the birds and everything came together for you. I love that, having that framework as a company. I love the point that you make here about you don't have to find somebody who knows exactly what you know about water. You can train the water. You just need to get the right person. And if you get that right, then the sky's the limit, it sounds like. Well, final question is for somebody entering the water industry today. First of all, is it possible? And secondly, what are they in for?
It's clearly possible because people are doing it all the time. But I would say that there are some technical things that you need to understand. I mean, basic water chemistry, you need to understand. You need to understand how a reverse osmosis drinking water system works. And you need to understand how water softener works and how filtration works. You also need to understand that you're going to be affecting people's health in a very positive way. And so you need to take this very seriously. If you come into it saying this is a get-rich-quick scheme, you're probably going to fail. If you come into it saying, I need to understand everything there is about this industry so I can provide the best products and services to the consuming public, then I think you're going to be successful. And that truly is where the value of WQA comes in. And not just in the education, but in truly getting engaged in what the WQA offers. I know there's so many of our members out there that send their dues checks in, once a year and never really tap into what the WQA can do for you. But when you think about some of the things that we're doing behind the scenes, think about the Clean Water for All program that's going to help hundreds and thousands of families that maybe can't afford drinking water systems to be able to get the treatment they need and be subsidized through a rebate program. That was born in the WQA. And has been carried by several senators now. Things like that, and you're not going to really understand these values of WQA until you get engaged, until you get involved. So don't just write the check and send the dues in. Become engaged. And as you know, Wes, that was my number one mantra my year as president, was to try and get more of our members engaged. And I'm still on that path today.
I would certainly second all of that, Wes. That a Water Quality Association has been the major factor in us being successful from day one. And I would recommend anybody that becomes a member, and everybody in the water business should be a member. But anyway, I would recommend they spend a lot of time with water quality, because water quality can help them a great deal, as they did us. So thanks for what you all do.
And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to tell us more about what's over your head, that beautiful fish. Did you catch that, or is that?
That was, I caught that in Panama.
You did?
Yeah, that was a trip with fellow Water Quality Association buddy Mike Urbans.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is quite something. Beautiful.
Yeah, and we got a few others around the room here that we're pretty proud of. So there's a couple Guatemala pictures over here, and a big redfish my dad caught on a father-son fishing trip to Venice, Louisiana, over here on this wall.
Okay. Well, past president DJ Shannahan and his father, Duke Shannahan, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, giving us your history, some values that you've abided by over these years, and a great perspective on running a water dealer business, frankly, and doing it successfully all these years. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Wes. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks for joining us for the Water Quality Association podcast, bringing you the latest news and insights from the association, members, and outside experts to help you better serve your customers and grow your business. Learn more about water and water filtration at our consumer website, betterwatertoday.org, and learn more about professional certification, product certification, and how you can become a member of the Water Quality Association at WQA.org. Until next time, this is Wes Bleed. So long from the Water Quality Association.